All right, so the men's NCAA tournament is starting up. The bracket came out yesterday, and so I'm gonna just kind of go through my picks. A lot of times with these YouTube brackets, I find people don't want their opinion to be scolded, and so they go with maybe like their boldest pick will be a 5 seed in the Sweet 16. I'm gonna give you what I think is gonna happen, and I do have at least one Final Four team that's kind of an out there pick, but I hope you do enjoy, and let's enjoy some basketball. Okay, so getting started in the East region, we do have UConn taking on Stetson. Stetson, first time in the tournament, they're going to get beat by at least 30 points. UConn, the defending champions, will move on in that matchup. FAU, bit overseeded in my opinion, taking on Big Ten Northwestern. I like Northwestern in that game. FAU's kind of have an up and down season. I just don't trust them consistently, whereas Northwestern held together at I mean, the tough Big Ten. People talk about the Big Ten not being super strong this year with Michigan being out of it. Ohio State turned it around. Nebraska is a very good team. Illinois is a very good team. Purdue, despite what happened, is a very good team. So I do like Northwestern. I think UAB is going to be a team a lot of people pick. I don't think it's a good pick. I think it's just because it's a 5-12. I think San Diego State is going to roll in that game. And same thing here. I don't really think Yale is a good upset pick. I think Auburn's going to roll in that game. This region is, in my opinion, very top heavy. There's a lot of the top seeds are way better than the lower seeds, in my opinion, in this region. Next up, BYU Duquesne. Same thing. The higher seeds just better. It's kind of just win their conference tournament, so they have to be here. But it's kind of like a filler team. Illinois Morehead State. Illinois is better. I will go with the upset pick Drake. I really think this is going to be probably the game of the first round in this region. Washington State versus Drake. I think that's a very good matchup. But I do have Drake pulling it out of the Missouri Valley after taking down Indiana State. Very impressive on their part. And then Iowa State, I think, will take down South Dakota State in that matchup. Moving down to the West region, we have North Carolina taking on the winner of the first 4 game. I will take North Carolina. This, I think, will be another pretty good game. Mississippi State versus Michigan State. I do like Mississippi State, excuse me. Michigan State is way too unreliable for me to pick them. I know they're going to be a very popular pick, even to win this game. I just don't trust them on a consistent basis. Whereas Mississippi State showed up and they beat a team as good as Tennessee in the SEC tournament. Moving on, another 5-12. I'm going to go with the 5 again. I like St. Mary's Grand Canyon. I don't honestly know too much about them out of the WAC, I believe. But St. Mary's, I mean, they've beat Gonzaga twice, who beat Kentucky, and I'm high on Kentucky. So by association, I just trust their consistency. They're recognizable. They're not new to March. Grand Canyon, of course, was here last year, lost to Gonzaga. I like St. Mary's in that matchup. And then Alabama Charleston. This will be a fun game. This will be a really fun game. I'm going to go with Alabama. The upside there is really good. Again, they could also get blown out because Alabama is that kind of team where they either win by a bunch or lose by a bunch. Clemson versus New Mexico. I'm going to go with New Mexico. Really like the Lobos out of the Mountain West winning that conference tournament. Baylor Colgate. I'm going to go with Baylor. Don't really have too much to say. Colgate, this is the weakest they've been in the past couple years, and they haven't. Have they made it out of the first round those years? I don't really think so. I know they lost to Arkansas a couple years ago. I remember them blowing that lead. I picked them that year, but I haven't picked them otherwise, and I'm not going to pick them here. Next up, Dayton versus Nevada. I'm going to go with Nevada. I just don't trust Dayton. They've been so cold. Lost that game to Duquesne in the A10 tournament, so I'm going to go with Nevada out of the Mountain West. And then I have Arizona taking out Long Beach State. Moving up to the south, make sure you can see it. We have Houston versus Longwood. Obviously, it's going to be Houston. I like Nebraska in this game. Stephen A. Smith will disagree. Nebraska out of the Big Ten. They've been impressively high scoring recently. And just Texas A&M, they have that one impressive win over Kentucky, but Kentucky's a team, in my opinion, doesn't play great defense. I am high on them, but I just don't see that as being the resume-defining win that Stephen A. thinks it is. Next up, this is probably another really good game. I got Wisconsin versus James Madison. Wisconsin's hot. They just beat Purdue, lost to Illinois in the Big Ten Championship, taking on James Madison, who just came out of nowhere. I'm going to go with Wisconsin only because of the experience factor, the factor that they are a a power conference, and they're hot right now. They just came off beating one of the best teams in the country. JMU was kind of slept on for a while. I do think that's a good upset pick, but it's not what I'm going to pick. What I am going to pick, however, is Vermont over Duke. I really like this. Duke is not the same team they normally are, whereas Vermont, coming out of the America East, they've been close a couple times to winning a game. I think this is the year they get it done. This is going to be a popular upset pick, but I am going to go with Texas Tech. Consistent, deep. I love that physical team. NC State, DJ Burns, I love that man. However, I am going to go with Texas Tech. Kentucky, I'm going to pick them over Oakland. I like Florida over this first 4 game, and I like Western Kentucky to beat Marquette in this game, and I'll tell you why. Little spoiler, I am going to pick Florida to advance past Western Kentucky, but I would have them advancing past Marquette. So my idea is, the past couple years, there's been a 15 over a 2. I think there's going to be one again, and this is the one I see it being. And yeah, I'm going to have Florida winning the next round anyway. So I think, why not make a fun pick? Why not? I mean, it could work out. It could be, if you have upset points on a pool, like something that really helps you in your pool. Montana State taking on Purdue. I'm going to take Montana State in that game. Next up, the 8-9. This one's really a toss-up to me. I'm going to go with Utah State, 1 seed in the Mountain West. But I could easily see TCU winning that one. These 2 games here, this is the hardest part of the bracket for me. Both these games are toss-ups. I'm going to go with Gonzaga just because of the experience factor. Although Will Wade, former LSU coach, very good season. I just trust Gonzaga, Mark Few and company. They had a rough season, but I do think they are capable of pulling this one off. I am going to take Samford over Kansas, even though Kansas is getting some guys back. Samford's been hot. Kansas has not been hot. South Carolina versus Oregon. I really like Oregon in this game. I don't trust South Carolina all that much. I do like Oregon quite a bit, coming off of winning the last Pac-12 championship. Creighton versus Akron. Really like Akron in this game. I am not high on Creighton at all. Akron is a team that is coming off a win over Kent State, which maybe they didn't earn based on the ending to it, but I do really like them. Texas versus the winner of Colorado State and Virginia. I hope it's not Virginia because they don't deserve to be here, but I'm going to go with Texas either way. And finally, Tennessee versus St. Peter's. I'm going with Tennessee in that matchup. So this sets up our second round. If we go back to the top, I'm going to have UConn taking down Northwestern. I don't really want to explain that one. I mean, UConn's just better. Auburn is one of the best teams in college basketball. I don't think people really realize that. They're going to beat San Diego State. BYU, Illinois, another really good game. I'm going to go with Illinois in this game. And then I'm going to have the upset here. I'm going to have Drake taking down Iowa State. Iowa State is a team that won the Big 12. I think a lot of people are picking early upsets for 2 seeds, and this might be a popular one. But it's not any knock against Iowa State that I'm picking. I'm picking because I think Drake is really good. I think Drake has potential to go on a really deep run. And I just, unfortunately, have them matched up with Iowa State. Moving down to the west, we have North Carolina, Mississippi State. I'm going to go with the Tar Heels in that one. This is going to be one of the best games of the second round, in my opinion. Alabama versus St. Mary's. The safe pick is St. Mary's, but I'm going to go with Alabama. That explosiveness and just the offensive firepower, they have the potential to beat a really good St. Mary's team. However, they also have the potential to lose to Charleston. It's a toss-up with a team like Alabama, in my opinion. Next game, we have New Mexico taking on Baylor. I'm going to go with New Mexico. Baylor is a team for me that has they have a high floor, but they're also not going to go on a deep run, in my opinion. I do think they could win this game. They'd definitely be favored in this game. I just don't believe this is their year, and I do believe I'm very high on New Mexico coming into this tournament, especially based on what they just did in the Mountain West tournament. A very good Mountain West, mind you. And then speaking of the Mountain West, we have Nevada taking on Arizona. I'm going to go with Arizona in this game to advance to the Sweet 16. Back to the top, Houston versus Nebraska. I'm going to go with Houston. And then Wisconsin, Vermont, another very good game. I do like the hot Wisconsin. in that game to advance to the Sweet 16. Texas Tech versus Kentucky. This is another very good game. A very physical Texas Tech team taking on a Kentucky team that's very hit or miss. I might go with, this is tough. I might go with Texas Tech in this game. They're physical, and I like that about them. And they're deep, and they just. I said I was high on Kentucky earlier. They were when the brackets came out. I thought I would have Kentucky in the Final Four. I've seen it's a popular pick, and I honestly just don't see it this year. I think Texas Tech is a team that's built to upset them. Next up, I did spoil this earlier. I'm going to go with Florida taking down Western Kentucky. That sets up a 6-7 matchup. And then down here we have, this was a joke, by the way. I'm not actually going Montana State. I just had to prolong it to make it actually look like I was. Purdue and Utah State. I'm going with Purdue in that matchup. Gonzaga, Samford. This is going to be a really good game. Again, I just trust Gonzaga more in such a matchup. Although I could very easily see Samford or even McNeese or even Kansas. Although weirdly, I feel least confident in Kansas out of these three teams to make it to this point. This is the part of the bracket where I'm least confident. These games right here. Oregon, Akron. I'm going to go with Oregon, and Texas, Tennessee. I do have Tennessee advancing. Next up, we have UConn, Auburn. Auburn is the team I think to watch out for in the East. I have them taking down UConn. They are deep, they can shoot, and they have Bruce Pearl, who wins in March. I mean, they've been to a Final Four. People forget they just won the SEC and got put in a really bad spot. But I do think this is a opportunity for them to prove kind of what type of team they are and what type of conference the SEC is. So I do have Auburn, and I'm going to have them taking on Illinois. Drake's run comes to an end to a very good Illinois team that won the Big Ten. I'm very high on Illinois coming into this tournament. I'm very high on both these teams, and it's just unfortunate they have to both meet each other and be with UConn, because if these three teams were in different regions, very well could have all been in my Final Four. Very easily could have happened. Down here we have North Carolina, Alabama. I'm going with North Carolina. And New Mexico, Arizona. I like the upset pick. Arizona, Caleb Love, would be great to see him go up against North Carolina. However, New Mexico is kind of one of my Cinderella teams, and I want to keep it interesting. I mean, this is a matchup I think New Mexico can win. Reminds me of Xavier, Arizona from way back when, 11-2 to take on a 1 in the Elite Eight. Back up top, Houston, Wisconsin. I think this is where Wisconsin's run comes to an end. And Texas Tech versus Florida. This is another very interesting game. I am going to go with Florida in this matchup just because of that explosive offense. I think they can find their way into the Elite Eight over a Texas Tech team that's very deep but doesn't score as many points as the Florida Gators do. Down below, Purdue, Gonzaga. Tough one for me to pick. I don't trust Purdue. I think Purdue very easily can get past these two games just based on the fact that it's not a very strong two teams. Montana State, I mean, they're going to beat Grambling. Grambling's not very good, but Montana State on its own is not very, they're not, I don't want to say they're not FDU, but they're not going to beat Purdue. And Utah State, another team I'm not super high on. Gonzaga, again, a team that's not the best. They're not great this year. But I do think they could take down Purdue. This is why this is a hard pick for me. I am going to go with Purdue, but I'm not confident in this game. And then I want an upset pick here. I want to take Oregon over Purdue. We have two 1-11s down here, which is interesting to me. Purdue versus Oregon in that matchup. Auburn versus Illinois. I like Auburn advancing to the Final Four. And then North Carolina, New Mexico. I am going to have North Carolina ending New Mexico's run. Sad, but Final Four is kind of important, and I'm not putting all my chips in New Mexico's basket. Although quite a few of them are there. I will go with Houston taking down Florida. I think this is a very good game, however. And finally, I will go with the 11 seed, Oregon, over Purdue. Purdue is the one seed I'm the least confident in, and Oregon's a team coming into the tournament that's very hot. I think they draw a very good region down here. They would have a couple tough games against Tennessee and Purdue that I have, but Tennessee's coming off a tough loss. Purdue's coming off a tough loss. Oregon is hot. I think Oregon has a road here to a Final Four. Finally, we have the Final Four. We have North Carolina, Auburn. I'm going to go with North Carolina. Houston, Oregon. I'm going to go with Houston. So kind of a chalky championship game. And I'm going to go with North Carolina in the championship to win over Houston. In Phoenix, I think it'll be a very good game. I think that's a very fun Final Four. I think that North Carolina-Auburn game could be an all-time classic if it ends up that way. Houston-Oregon could be interesting, although I do think Houston's quite a bit better than the Oregon Ducks. But these are just my opinion. I hope you all enjoyed, and I I tried to not go all chalk. I know a lot of people are going UConn. I know Tennessee and Purdue are popular in Oregon's region. And then Houston and North Carolina are both very good teams. And I feel like you can't just hate pick against them. Those are the 2 1 seeds I really like going into the tournament. I think UConn drew a tough matchup, and I don't like Purdue going in. So this is what I like. Let me know your thoughts, because this is a wide open tournament in my opinion. The best teams are all in one region, and it kind of leaves it wide open for a lot of Cinderella teams to potentially make a run. So yeah, thank you for listening to me, watching, and let's have some fun. Let's do it. I do think, imagine if Montana State actually beat Purdue, though. That would be funny.